So we're looking at handling frustrating, anger-inducing situations with power and confidence. I do want to emphasize, however, to begin with, that anger in itself is not bad. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes anger can be used to propel you out of a situation that you really shouldn't be in. So the idea here isn't completely to dissolve all anger completely. In some ways, it's the masculine protecting the feminine. That anger, especially when the feminine is staying in a situation that she really, 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 and applies to men and women, that you shouldn't really be in. But maybe you love this person, or you think you have no other choice, or whatever, and you're being hurt in some way, whether emotionally or mentally or, physically. And that the male comes in with anger to get you out of that situation. And in that case, you definitely don't want to get rid of the anger. Sometimes as spiritual people, we're thinking that all anger needs to be demolished and gotten rid of, and it's not necessarily the truth. Sometimes you're very justified in expressing anger in a situation, so it's not necessary that you always get rid of it, but you definitely want to be in control of how you express it, and that's where the issues sometimes come in. Are you in control of how you express your anger, or are you giving your control, your power away to other people by saying things like, and this is quite regular, people say things like, well, he made me angry, she made me angry, my children make me so mad sometimes, or look at that person driving on the road, look at how they're driving, they're so crazy, it just makes me so angry when I see people do this and do that and do the other. And that whole makes me thing, it's so normal to think that way. Okay, now we're Deliberate Millionaires. Chances are you've probably heard that nobody can make you do anything. But it may not necessarily play out in your life, because it does feel sometimes like people are making you react in a certain way. But that is literally you saying that you have no power in that situation. And that actually in itself induces anger, or that's the reason you're angry, is because it feels like you have no power in that situation. And we know innately that we are born to be powerful, that when we were created, we're created in the image and likeness of the divine, we're one with the divine, we're supposed to be powerful. We know it deep down in our soul. And when anything happens to us that makes us in any way doubt who we actually are, that difference between who we're showing up to be right now, or what seems to be happening right now, and who we are, can show up as anger. It can show up as, I have to get myself back. But then the anger can be so clouding that you act in such a way that it emphasizes the fact that you do not feel powerful. Because sometimes people use really aggressive ways of getting their points across as a way because I can't, if I don't tell them in this way, then nobody's going to listen to me. So it almost feels like I have to in order to get my point across. But it's never true. You always have a choice. And if anything, losing control in that way shows that you are weak, not that you are strong. That you feel you have no control over your ability to communicate in a clear, respectful manner says you feel powerless. And this even applies to people, as I said, who may be doing the passive withdrawal thing, where I'm just not going to speak to you for the next few days. And I used to do that one. Oh, I did. I did. I don't do it so much now, thankfully. I've kind of got a handle on it now. But it did take a little while of getting to the point of choosing no longer to allow someone else's behavior to determine how I was going to behave. And that is a place of power. When you're no longer seemingly forced to act in a way that isn't you, because somebody else did something to you, or said something about you, or looked at you funny, for goodness sake, or drove on the road funny, or whatever. You always have control over how you show up in the world. Now, there are many ideas that people have about, and most of these are, because anger in itself, the reason why you act in the angry, horrible manner, it's not necessarily always just about what this person has done or said or whatever. It is actually the meaning you have given it. Okay? So the meaning you have given it is probably due to what childhood, always childhood, isn't it? Everything goes back to whatever happened in your childhood and whatever's happened in the years leading up to now that is now triggering you. So it's hardly ever, especially if you're someone who lashes out. And some of you might be, okay? You might be that person who keeps it under control or keeps it under control and then, oh my God, it's just all out. You can almost see the fear in your children's eyes as you're yelling and screeching like a crazy person, and you can see yourself doing this, but it feels like you can't even stop yourself. You can. You can. It will take some actually seeing the damage or the harm that your anger is doing to your relationships, and actually choosing to start before you get crazy angry. Before you get crazy angry, to start managing how you look at different situations. Because some situations in your life are recurring. The same situation happening, maybe with different people, but it's the same thing. The same, you feeling in some way as though people are disregarding your value. You feeling not worthy in some way. You feeling that if somebody has a different opinion from you, be it child, be it partner, be it colleague or whatever, that it must mean that you are going to have to give in and you don't want to, or it must mean that they don't respect you, or it might mean the end of the relationship, or you have to very harshly get your point across in order for them to listen to you, or whatever. And all of those things, none of those things are true. But you may have seen growing up that when, okay, maybe you had parents that split up. And so you decided that if people have a difference of opinion, it must mean that the relationship is going to end. And because of that fear inside of you, you either try to pretend you're not angry until you lash out and go crazy, or you stop speaking to people because you don't want to be like your parents, but you're then doing the opposite thing. Or you just feel like you have no control and you just go crazy because there's a part of you, there's a little person inside of you, a frozen personality, who is still reacting to the fact that your parents split up when you were a child. And now you're not seeing the situation for what it is. You're over personalizing everything. And I see this happening. I've seen this happening with clients where they're saying, yeah, but they said this and they did this. But I'm like, yeah, but what has that actually got to do with you? And for a lot of people, sometimes you're over personalizing every situation that happens. It's like they said something, they acted in a certain way. In fact, this can happen with children and parents, where they didn't do the washing up. You make it mean that they do not value you. After everything I've done for them, they can't even do the washing up. But it actually has nothing to do with you. They're not doing the washing up because they're being thoughtless teenagers or young people. It has nothing to do with your worth. It has nothing to do with your value to them even. They're not thinking that, but you are immediately personalizing it, making it mean something bad about you, getting really upset about it, really angry. And so the moment you yell at them, trying to get them to do what you want them to do, their back goes up. They don't want to do what you want them to do because of the way you're saying it. They feel stupid, they feel disrespected, and then something escalates into whatever. And even if they do the washing up because you yelled like a crazy person, your relationship has taken a hit. But this can also show up in other areas of your life where you are over personalizing everything. Somebody else has just some random issue of their own. I'm not even saying that they didn't do something that warrants some kind of reaction, but frankly, you don't want your reactions to be determined by what somebody else's behavior does or says. Now, I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of studying and all of this stuff, and most of the books, self-helpy stuff, it's all about the surface managing your behavior. But as you know, as a deliberate millionaire, none of these things start, as I've already said, none of it starts at the surface in your behavior. It ends at your behavior. The actual start, the actual cause is as I know, everything is energy. There is some kind of frozen personality stuck within you there is something inside of you that needs to be handled from the inside before you start thinking about behaviors, or else what you're trying to do is, and there's nothing wrong, because there's always a practical element to everything that we do. So there is an element of, okay, I do need to manage my actual behavior and the way I'm communicating and the way I'm lashing out. Absolutely, you do. But if you've tried just doing the management of behavior thing and it hasn't quite worked, I can tell you why. It's because you haven't also handled the inner world. You haven't handled the energy piece in this. And as I say, as deliberate millionaires, we must start from within. We are creating our lives from within. Whatever is showing up in your physical reality started within you. It started because of some kind of blockage, some kind of something inside of you that needs to be handled.